I'm here with Alexander Mercouris, editor-in-chief of the Duran. Alexander, we have a new poll from the UK via The Observer, which is actually connected to The Guardian. And I'm looking at Zero Hedge right now. It says The Observer newspaper is The Guardian's Sunday sister paper. And it reveals that the Brexit Party, Nigel Farage's party, is polling now at 34%. It is surging. That's 6 points up from where it was. And we were just talking about the numbers before we did this show. Labour is at 21. The Conservatives are at 11. So those parties combined still do not catch up with the Brexit parties polling ahead of the EU elections. What does this tell you?
Well, I think it reflects the huge anger across England at the way in which Brexit has been effectively reversed by the political establishment in Westminster, with the major role played by Theresa May, who has negotiated a Brexit deal with the EU, which virtually everybody says is terrible and an abomination and a betrayal, and at the same time also a betrayal that goes far beyond Theresa May herself. It also extends to the rest of the Conservative Party, which has let her get away with it, and with the large parts of the Labour Party also, which have also acted in ways that suggest that they want to reverse Brexit, even though both the Labour and Conservative parties campaigned in the last general election that they would see Brexit through.
When all of this happened with Theresa May's botched deal, would you have ever thought that a new party on the political scene could surge so quickly? I've never seen anything like this. Usually to build a political party takes years, if not decades. Would you ever have called this?
Especially in Britain, I should say. I mean, in Britain, building a political party from the grassroots is a massively difficult thing to do. But strangely enough, I did expect it, not perhaps quite as fast as this, but I did write a very, I think, dare I say it myself, prophetic article very shortly after the referendum, in which I said that if there was any attempt made to reverse Brexit, or if Brexit was reversed after the referendum, then given the way that England voted heavily for leave, a pro-Brexit party would sweep England. Now, I made that prediction, which is the correct one. I made the wrong prediction in that same article, in which I said that the political parties, the politicians in Westminster, being political animals, would understand that their survival depended on them seeing Brexit through, and for that reason, they would see Brexit through. That part of my prophecy, if you like, proved wrong. I underestimated their capacity for delusion and their inability to pursue what was, in the end, in their own interests. Nigel Farage has just done a remarkable interview for the BBC, a very acrimonious article with Andrew Marr on the BBC, in which he has spoken about the denialism of the BBC and of the politicians of the two big parties.
One of the other polling numbers that came out, the polling results that came out, Alexander, is I think maybe even more stunning. I don't know. Let's hear your commentary, and I'll read you the first line from Zero Hedge on those numbers. It says, the Observer opinion poll shows Labour on 28%, the Conservative Party on 22%, and the Brexit Party at 21%. This is a poll that's related to a general election. So a general election, Brexit Party is now a major party.
It's outpolling the Conservatives, and the information I'm getting from the grassroots, from across the country. I mean, the thing when I say information I'm getting, I mean what I am hearing from various sources is that there is a total meltdown and a mass defection of Conservative voters and even of many Conservative Party members to the Brexit Party. I think if this continues for very much longer, the European elections will just be a staging post towards the final and total collapse of the Conservative Party as we have known it.
What does Nigel Farage need to do in order, number one, to solidify his victory during the EU Parliament votes and after those EU Parliament votes are held? What does he need to do to keep this momentum going and to really become a major party in the general elections? I mean, to solidify that.
Right, he needs to do various things. First of all, he needs to deliver a big victory in the Euro elections. I mean, I think if he fails to win as many votes as the polls are now saying he will, then I think that will slow down his momentum. I don't think it'll stop it, but it will slow it down. But I think he will achieve that result. I think the next thing he needs to do is he needs to work very hard on building up a strong grassroots party across England. Now, he's getting donors coming forwards who are providing him with the money. You can't do anything in politics in Britain, just like in the United States, without money. The sums involved are much smaller, but you do need money. You do need to find good people around England to build up a grassroots party like UKIP once was, so that you can put up candidates not just in elections like the Euro elections, but in local council elections, which are very important in Britain for gathering, major political strength, and also so that he can have candidates, strong candidates, in every electoral constituency in England during the next general election. He's got the time to do that. He's got the organisational skills, as he showed when he built up UKIP. And I've no doubt that he can do that. He's got the money to. The third thing he's got to do, and I think this is perhaps going to be the most difficult for him, is I think he's got to be very, very careful about not attracting people into the Brexit Party who are too associated with the old parties. Now, I say that because there is already the signs of a drift from top Conservatives, perhaps even some top Labour people, who are talking about leaving their old parties and joining the Brexit Party, and assuming that they will get prominent positions in the Brexit Party, just as they had in their old parties. I think that would be a mistake if Nigel Farage embraced them in that way, because I think he needs to understand that one of the reasons that he's driving the momentum behind his party to such an extent is the disgust of British people with their political class. And they will not be happy if they see the Brexit Party, which is at the moment an insurgent party, reproducing itself as just a new, more right-wing version of the old British political class. So I think he will need to keep these people at arm's length. By the way, I think he will, because something very similar happened with UKIP. UKIP also began to attract some people in its heyday. UKIP began to attract some people from the Conservative Party, including some Conservative MPs. And I think Nigel Farage ultimately decided that these people were a problem rather than a strength. So I think he will keep the Brexit Party clear of these people.
All right. Makes sense to me. Finally, Alexander, what is going through the minds of the European Union, the guys in Brussels, and what is going through the mind of Theresa May?
Right, let's take them all one step at a time. I think what this is going to do is it's going to harden opinions amongst the integrationist hardliners in Europe, led by Emmanuel Macron, that Britain must leave the European Union, because clearly reversing Brexit is going to create a situation where they have a potential pro-Brexit government within the EU, which is going to create chaos for the EU, and which will slow down the whole momentum towards further integration that Macron wants. So I think it's going to harden opinion within the EU. They're going to say, well, we don't want Brexit, but frankly, We want Nigel Farage and the Brexit Party in the EU Parliament even less. We absolutely do not want them there making common cause with Salvini and Orban and radicalising the rest of Europe. So let's get Britain out of the European Union on the 31st of October and have an end to it. That's not what I think their preferred outcome will be, but I think it is the outcome they will gradually come round to. So that's the EU position. I think Theresa May is a complete lost cause. I think that we've now reached the point with Theresa May where she inhabits some sort of bunker in Downing Street. She simply refuses. I think it's quite clear now. She refuses to change course. I think if she sees this disaster, she will turn around and blame everybody in the Conservative Party except herself. She will say the only reason this is happening is because you're not passing my withdrawal agreement. So if you want to save the Conservative Party and stop Farage, what you've got to do is to pass my withdrawal agreement, which of course the British Parliament is never going to do. Now, the third thing that's going to happen is I think that a lot of people in the Conservative Party are going to panic, and I suspect that we're going to see yet another attempt at some point in the next few weeks, maybe the next week, to try and leverage Theresa May out of office. The trouble is, I've never known the Conservative Party so disorganised and unable to get its act together about this. And the most that people are talking about at the moment is Theresa May setting a date for her for the time when she's going to leave. And they say that if she does that, then they won't put any pressure on her, which seems to me a crazy idea, because she could set a date for next year. And what would that do? By that time, I doubt there will be any Conservative Party left. But it is in their hands.
Is this good? Is this a good outcome for Labour and Corbyn to see the Conservatives melt down and to see Brexit Party rise up? Or does this affect Labour at all?
It does affect Labour. I mean, Labour was polled 40% during the general election, and now they're only polling 21%. So, I mean, this is I've always said this, that they were good. They were risking losing a very large chunk of their vote in their working class heartlands to the Brexit Party. The only thing I'm going to say about this is that Corbyn himself has always given me the impression of being someone who understood this. I think some of the people around him understand it also. His problem is that the Parliamentary Labour Party, which hates Jeremy Corbyn, doesn't seem to want to understand it. They are so obsessed with keeping Britain in the EU that they are prepared to sacrifice the future of their own party to that objective. And if it takes Corbyn down, I don't think they really care too much about that also. So this is the problem the Labour Party has. My own gut feeling is that because Jeremy Corbyn has managed up to a certain point to resist the pro-EU hardliners within the Labour Party, the Labour Party will in the end avoid the total meltdown in its vote that the Tory party, the Conservative Party, is looking at. And that may mean that it could come out of a future general election as the biggest party, and a party which would probably be the first party to form a government. But it would be a much weaker party, a much weaker government, and a much weaker Corbyn premiership than it might have been if the Labour Party had straightforwardly supported Brexit, campaigned on other policies, seen Brexit through, and won a strong majority in the House of Commons.
Wow, what an incredible turn of events. What a disruptive force Nigel Farage is. Has the UK ever seen anyone like him on the political scene?
No, well, I don't think he's ever seen anything quite like this. I mean, for this kind of political earthquake, you have to go back to the early 20th century and the rise of the Labour Party and the way it succeeded in replacing the Liberal Party. But what I would say is that took about 2 decades to happen. This has taken 2 months. I mean, this is almost unprecedented. But if you play fast and loose with the democratic process in a country like Britain, in the way that the political elite in Britain has been doing, then this is not an outcome that should surprise you.
Yeah, you're going to pay the price if you play fast and loose.
Absolutely, and especially when you have a politician with the tremendous skill that Nigel Farage has. And we've talked about Farage many times. He is a very, very clever politician. People consistently underestimate him to their cost. He is not a marginal or ephemeral figure. He is one of the political giants in British politics today.
Is there a chance, do you see ever, and I'll end it on this, ever, that Farage could actually be the UK PM?
If you'd asked me that question 2 months ago, I said
that's why I'm asking it to you now after these poll numbers.
I would have said 2 months ago I could not imagine it. Now, well, I still find it very difficult because the very difficult nature of our electoral system. I mean, even that opinion poll that you were pointing to, which puts Nigel Farage a strong second in a general election. Behind the Labour Party and ahead of the Conservatives. The Conservatives would still end up with more MPs than the Brexit Party. And I think the Brexit Party would only get about 49 MPs out of a 600 MP House of Commons. This is because of the nature of the electoral system. But we live in uncertain times, and who knows? And if the Conservative Party doesn't get its act together, I can see it. I can see something like that starting to happen. Only I don't expect that it will happen in the following general election. I think it will be more likely to happen in the general election after that, once the Brexit Party has become more strongly established. There is a precedent, by the way. Way back in the 18th century, there was a man, he was an aristocrat called Earl Grey. The tea is named after him. Earl Grey tea is named after him. He was actually a remarkable a man of great presence and strong personality and charisma. And he wanted to carry out a reform of the electoral system, which was at that time incredibly corrupt and incredibly undemocratic. I mean, and he campaigned for decades to achieve this. And of course, through most of that time, nobody ever imagined that he would ever become prime minister. And he did some pretty remarkable things along the way. He backed the abolition of slavery, for example. And then, to everybody's astonishment, in 1830, he did become prime minister in a landslide. And he carried out his great reform. And he did change the British electoral system, putting Britain on the road to full democracy. So, you know, it's not without precedent. Such things have happened. Nobody at one time ever thought that Grey would ever become prime minister, and he did. And perhaps one day Nigel Farage would. I mean, I don't exclude it.
And perhaps one day, maybe 20, 30 years from now, we may be drinking Farage tea. So,
I wouldn't indeed so.
Anything is possible. All right. Alexander Mercouris, Editor-in-Chief of the Duran. Thank you very much. Guys, if you like this video, click the subscribe button down below. Click on that notifications bell to make sure you get notifications every time we push out a new video. Visit the Duran shop, buy a t-shirt, help support the Duran. You can also get a copy of this video in audio format. Make sure you follow us on iTunes and SoundCloud. And also follow us on Instagram, theduran_com. And make sure you download the Blank Chat app to get notifications that we send out every day about our channel. And of course, we have a new site, theduran.com. Please visit that site and see all the articles that Alexander is linking up to every day. Alexander Mercouris, Editor-in-Chief of the Duran. Thank you very much. Until next time, everybody. Take care.